The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are taking a look at the player cards that were included in FFG's preview of the Lair of Dagon, the 5th Mythos pack in the Innsmouth Conspiracy Cycle. FFG's preview article last week included, 8 or 9 player cards in total, and we are going to take a look at them now. There are spoilers, of course, for those of you who care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these player card previews. If you'd like to support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. FFG's preview article for the Lair of Dagon included a whole bunch of player cards, and we are going to take a look at them now. The first bunch we're going to take a look at are the upgrades for the talents from the core set. We have Dig Deep, Hard Knocks, and Hyper Awareness. These are the level 4 versions. As you may remember, Physical Training 4 and Arcane Studies 4 were released in the Nathaniel Cho and Jacqueline Fine starter decks, respectively, earlier this year, and we are getting the rest of them in the Lair of Dagon. It's really hard to judge this bunch of cards. Some of them, like Dig Deep, don't see a ton of play outside of the core set. I believe Dig Deep 0 really doesn't see that much play outside of Preston Fairmont. And of course, because Dig Deep is a level 4 card, he cannot take this upgrade. So I'm not too sure who would be interested in Dig Deep 4. Hyper Awareness, it makes the cut in Daisy, Rex, and Ursula a lot of the time. But again, we have the level 2 version. I'm not too sure how many of these investigators want to bump up to the level 4 version. And Hard Knocks is commonly appears in Jenny Barnes, and it also makes the cut sometimes in Finn and Preston decks. And again, jumping up to that level 4 version, it might be worthwhile. I think it is worthwhile to upgrade to these if you are interested in talents and you've got the money to burn. Talents tend to be a little bit controversial in this game. Some players really, really like them. Others don't care for them so much. 2 cost is pretty good, and you do get the 2 resources on them at the start of each round. So if you're using these a lot, they will pay for themselves in a couple rounds. But again, it's just I'm not too sure right now which investigators are really going to be interested in these. I don't expect Dig Deep 4 to see much play in any investigator. The card just isn't, because it focuses on willpower and agility, it tends not to see as much play as the others. I could certainly see Hyper Awareness and Hard Knocks making the cut in some decks, but again, there are very few investigators who are playing the talents to begin with, and so again, I think there's going to be very few investigators who are going to want to upgrade to these. But if you like the talents, I think they are definitely worth a look. The second card in the card fan that we're going to take a look at is Nephthys. It is a 3-cost asset that costs 4 experience points. It has a willpower and 2 combat skill icons, the ally and blessed trait. While Nephthys is in play, you get +1 willpower. Some of the text is obscured, so it says, when 1 or more blessed tokens would be removed from the bag during a skill test, seal them on Nephthys instead. And then it has another ability, Exhaust Nephthys, either release 3 blessed tokens sealed on Nephthys, or return 3 blessed tokens sealed on her to the token pool, deal 2 damage to an enemy at your location. Nephthys has 2 health and 2 sanity, and of course takes up an ally slot. So, of course, +1 willpower is always welcome, especially in the Guardian class. Guardians have a lot of cards that provide them with extra willpower boosts. And here is another one to throw on the pile, so they can get themselves to 4 or 5 willpower with the right combination of cards. Nephthys has 2 health and 2 sanity, so she is somewhat resilient against encounter cards that target allies. There aren't that many of them, but it's nice that she does have 2 health and 2 sanity to soak some stuff for you. She does have the Bless trait, but Father Mateo cannot purchase her since it is a level 4 card, and he is restricted to Blessed cards levels 0 to 3. Now, the first ability on Nephthys, which is probably a response, gives investigators a way of avoiding wasting Blessed tokens. That's one of the problems with the Blessed tokens, is you often draw them and you don't really need them to pass the skill test, especially if you're going 2 up before the pull when you're playing on standard. Sometimes those Blessed tokens get wasted. Nephthys lets you actually save those tokens. So say you pull 2 Blessed tokens, you were going to pass the test with 1 anyway, but Nephthys lets you seal those tokens on her, so you get to reuse them at a later time. So that is quite a nice thing to do, I think, if you're playing around with the Bless mechanic. Sometimes you just draw those Bless tokens and you don't need them for the bonus. Nephthys gives you a way of saving them for another time. Now, the second ability is probably a free triggered ability, similar to that of the Beat Cop. It looks like you can exhaust Nephthys to either release the 3 Bless tokens, so you get to add them into the bag. So say you had one pull where it was just like you pulled Bless, 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 and of course you didn't need to +6 to pass the skill test. So you sealed all those tokens on Nephthys. Then you get to take a free triggered ability to throw all those tokens back into the bag, which is quite nice. So you can use them later, either to pull during a skill test, or perhaps better to trigger other effects on cards like Rite of Sanctification and whatnot. And as you'll see, Favor of the Sun here, you can seal Bless tokens on that as well. So you can either use them just to pull or to seal on other cards. Now, the second ability, I think the way it's worded is that you have to return the 3 Blessed tokens sealed on Nephthys to the token pool in order to deal the 2 damage. Direct damage is always helpful. It's great to have access to direct damage, whether you just need a little bit of extra damage to take down a particularly tough enemy, or you've got an enemy with the aloof keyword hanging around and you want to kill it without having to waste an action to engage it. If this is indeed a free triggered ability, that would be very nice to have, and gives you, again, another way to add those, to get a little bit more use out of those Bless tokens. Perhaps you, if you're able to sort of seal them on Nephthys one at a time, that would be ideal. Say you draw a Bless token. Okay, it helped me pass a skill test. I seal it on Nephthys. You get a couple of those successes under your belt, and then Nephthys can return all those tokens to the pool, and you can get a little bit of extra mileage out of those Bless tokens. So if you're playing a Bless style deck, I think this is a pretty good card. 3 resources is I think the price is right, certainly for this sort of card. And if you're able to continually keep adding Bless tokens to the bag and pulling them, you could do a significant amount of damage over the course of a scenario. There is one more card in the card fan, that is Favor of the Sun. We're going to take a look at that one a little bit later. There is another card, Favor of the Moon, which deals with, Favor of the Sun deals with Blessed tokens, Favor of the Moon deals with Cursed tokens. We're going to take a look at those together a little bit later. Another card that was spoiled is the Stygian Eye. 10 cost, man oh man, 10 resources to play this thing, 3 experience points. It's an event with 3 willpower skill icons. It has the Insight and Curse trait. Fast, play only during your turn. reduce the cost to play the Stygian Eye by 1 for each curse token in the Chaos bag. And until the end of the round, you get +3 to each of your skills. Now, the Stygian Eye costs 3 experience points, so it's really only an option for dedicated Seekers and Lola Hayes. Investigators like Roland Banks won't be able to take this card. It has 3 willpower skill icons, which is always nice, especially if you are unable to play Stygian Eye, which is certainly a possibility if it costs 10 resources, and the Chaos bag does not have a lot of curse tokens in it. You'll be looking to pitch this to a skill test, and 3 willpower skill icons is very nice indeed. It does have the insight trait, so it synergizes with Joe Diamond, who can play it at -2 cost from his hunch deck, so he'd have to pay 8, which is still a hell of a lot, but at least he doesn't need as many curse tokens in the bag as some of the other Seekers in order to play this. Now, adding 3 to each of your skills until the end of the round is a very, very powerful ability that can mitigate, basically it mitigates the impact of the first curse token that you draw from the Chaos bag each test. So if you are lucky enough to play the Stygian Eye for free, because there are 10 curse tokens in the bag, your odds of drawing a curse token are about 1 in 3 if you're playing with the Innsmouth Conspiracy bag. So you would, and slightly higher if you're playing with a bag that starts with 15 tokens, you're going to have an even higher chance of drawing those curse tokens. So having a way of basically mitigating the first curse token that you pull from the bag is very nice. And of course, it adds 3 to all of your skills. The only cards that do anything remotely close to this in terms of power are Grit Your Teeth 0, which is a survivor event from the Stella Clark starter deck, but it only adds +1 to each of your skills, and you've got to fail a skill test first. So you do need to fail a skill test before you can trigger that, and you're only getting +1. The only other card I could think of was the Key of Yeast from Dim Carcosa, which adds up to 3 to each of your skills, depending on how much horror is on it. But of course, it has been added to the list of taboos because it is crazy powerful, and it also has the exceptional keyword now, and it will cost you 10 experience points. So it is a huge cost to add that to your deck. So for only 3 experience points, you can add Stygian Eye to your deck and add potentially +3 to all of your skills for a turn, which is quite nice. Now, it is fast, which is excellent, but you can only play it during your turn, so you are unfortunately unable to play Stygian Eye during the Mythos phase if you are worried about you pull a bad treachery and you were hoping to get a little bit of a boost to pass it. This would be ideal, but unfortunately it's only during your turn. Now, ultimately, the value of Stygian Eye depends a lot on how many curse tokens are in the bag to begin with, and how many resources your investigator has, because you could easily end up in situations where there aren't enough curse tokens in the bag to reduce the cost of this to a reasonable level, and I'm not entirely sure what a reasonable level is. I think I'd probably be willing to pay, 3 or 4 for this, maybe. I can't see myself being willing to pay 5, but you never know. If you're desperate enough, I would, if you're desperate enough, you'll pay whatever it takes. But I think generally, I think I'd probably stop at 3 or 4 resources. And then again, you could end up in a situation where there are the curse tokens in the bag, but you simply don't have the resources to play this. So there's a couple things you've got to juggle here. Typically, Seekers have access to a ton of resources these days, so I don't expect them to have that much trouble paying for the Stygian Eye. So it's really going to come down to how many curse tokens are in the bag. As long as you're able to generate a pile of resources with your Seeker, Investigator, and there are many cards that help you generate resources these days. It's going to come down to how many curse tokens are in the bag. So, very powerful card. There are a couple of things about it that aren't ideal, because its cost does depend on the number of curse tokens in the bag. So there may not be enough curse tokens, or you may not have the resources. But of course, it does come with 3 willpower skill icons. So in the event that you are unable to pay for this thing, or there just aren't enough curse tokens in the bag to warrant paying for it, you can still commit this to a skill test and be quite happy with 3 willpower skill icons. So a good card here for Seekers to take a look at. The next card that was spoiled is Flute of the Outer Gods. It has the cost of X. We will talk about that in a moment. It costs 4 experience points. Unfortunately, this has the exceptional keyword, so it is going to set you back a total of 8 XP. It has a willpower, combat, and agility skill icon, item, instrument, relic, and curse traits. It is exceptional, and you seal up to X curse tokens on it. So this costs, again, just like the Stygian Eye, the cost of this card depends a lot on how many curse tokens in the bag and how many of those you want to seal. It's going to cost you 1 for each curse token you seal. As an action, you can exhaust the Flute of the Outer Gods and release 1 curse token sealed on it to choose a non-elite enemy at your location. You either move the chosen enemy to a connecting location or deal its damage to an enemy at its location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity, and the Flute of the Outer Gods takes up a hand slot. This is the first exceptional card in the Mystic card pool. Costs 8 experience points. Again, you've got to ask yourself, if you're going to spend 8 experience points on this, what are you not going to buy instead? Mystics typically tend to upgrade their trio, whether that's Shriveling, Rite of Seeking, and Mists of Rillier, or Sixth Sense, or the new curse-related cards, Armageddon, Eye of Chaos, and Shroud of Shadows. So you're going to have to give up something if you want the Flute of the Outer Gods. There are a couple things that sort of bother me about this card. For one, the Mystic class doesn't have a lot of access to card draw, which makes finding a single copy of the Flute of the Outer Gods in your deck a little bit more challenging than, say, it would be if it was a Seeker card, who have all the draw and tutors in the world to find cards like this. That's not the case for Mystics, so they don't really have a lot of draw, so adding a singleton to your deck isn't going to be ideal. And the class doesn't have a lot of really reliable ways to add a lot of curse tokens to the bag either. That, I guess, depends a lot on how many curse tokens you plan on sealing on this thing, and how much resources you can spend on that. Again, resources are also in short supply in Mystics from time to time, because they have so many expensive assets to play. So I don't think this is the type of card that you drop down and you pay 10 resources to seal 10 curse tokens. Maybe you're spending 3 to seal 3 curse tokens, in which case you probably will be adding enough curse tokens if you're just playing a straight Mystic. But if you're planning on sealing more than that, then you probably need to be playing Mystic that has access to more of the curse tech. So you're probably looking at an Investigator like Dexter Drake, who has access to all of the rogue cards that add curse tokens. Gloria Goldberg, you can build her to include rogue or seeker events. That opens up Faustian Bargain and Deep Knowledge. Jim Culver, he can play either of those cards as well if he dips into seeker or rogue. Luke Robinson has access to all of the seeker card pool, so he can both add curse tokens, and he's got the card draw and tutors necessary to find this thing. Norman Withers can take this. He's got access to level 0 seeker cards, and he can purchase this card from the Mystics. And Ursula Downs can also pick this up as well because it has the relic trait. So if you're playing a mystic who has access to the Seeker and or Rogue card pools, then you have, I think you have some ways of mitigating some of the issues with this card, namely the fact that it is going to be, there's only going to be one copy in your deck, so you're going to need to try to draw it quickly, and then adding enough curse tokens to the bag to make it worth your while. And again, this is one of the problems with this card, is there's sort of a lot to do before you can actually trigger it. You've got to draw the Flute of the Gods. You've got to get it on the table. But before you do that, you need enough curse tokens in the bag to make it worth your while. So there's a lot of things going on with this card, and sort of a lot of things to juggle for a deck to do. So I sort of look at this card and I think, maybe it might be better in multiplayer, simply because if you're playing at a table with a bunch of other players who are adding curse tokens to the bag, you don't have to do it yourself. So there'll be plenty of curse tokens available, because of course the problem with the curse tokens is, say you add some to the bag, you may end up drawing them before you draw the Flute of the Outer Gods to seal them. So there's pros and cons here that you've got to work around. Now, the abilities themselves are, I think, pretty good. I mean, you would expect them to be pretty good if you're paying 8 XP, but the first ability, moving a non-elite enemy to a connecting location without making a skill test, is quite good. You're basically getting one evade per round, because you do have to exhaust the Flute of the Outer Gods. So you release one of the curse tokens, and you're essentially evading without making a skill test, which is pretty good. Now, the only concern that I would have with that is, of course, if the enemy has the Hunter keyword, you are not technically evading the enemy, so the enemy is not exhausted. So if you move the enemy and it has the Hunter keyword, it's going to come during the enemy phase. It's just going to move back and attack you. So if you're trying to move enemies around with the that have that keyword, you're either going to need to move them away and then move yourself, or be prepared to suffer an attack when the thing comes back. And of course, most deep ones in this cycle have the Hunter keyword and on engage effects. So moving them around with the Flute of the Outer Gods is not ideal. But if you're dealing with an enemy that doesn't have the Hunter keyword, most of the time this is going to be pretty good. You just move the enemy away from you, and then carry on your merry way, because most scenarios you're not heading backwards all that often. So as long as the scenario rewards you for progressing forward, you can just move the enemy away and be on your merry way. Now, the other ability that you can use is you can deal direct damage to another enemy at that location, and that damage is equal to the damage caused by this non-elite enemy. Of course, dealing direct damage to an enemy without making a skill test is also very powerful, especially against enemies with odd health totals. If you're playing a mystic and you've got shriveling, and you facing an enemy with 3 health, you can shrivel them once, and then you could use the Flute of the Outer Gods to ding them for another damage. Of course, the problem here, there are a couple problems. One, you need 2 enemies at your location, which isn't that common, especially in solo. It happens more often in multiplayer, which is why I think this card is probably a little better in multiplayer than in solo, at least for this ability. So you need 2 enemies, and then the other problem is that most non-elite enemies only deal 1 damage. So if you're expecting to trigger the Flute of the Outer Gods and see enemies drop like flies, I think you're going to be disappointed, because most non-elite enemies don't hit that hard, and so your chances are you're not going to be taking down enemies with the Flute of the Outer Gods. But it can be helpful. I mean, 1 damage does wonders against enemies with odd health totals, whether that's 3 or 5. If you're playing in multiplayer, you're the player who's dealing with the monsters may just need a little bit of help. You know, they need that little bit of extra damage, or maybe you've got an aloof enemy like a whippoorwill at your location. Flute of the Outer Gods will help you deal with those. The other issue, of course, is that this only affects non-elite enemies. So if you've got an elite enemy, the Flute is useless. But I don't really consider that to be too big a problem. Most of the enemies in the game are non-elite, so there should be an enemy to work with. It's just that you've got, I mean, if you want to do the damage thing, you need 2 enemies, which, again, is more common in multiplayer than solo. Now, theoretically, you could simply use the Flute as a way of sealing away curse tokens and never trigger it, if you're willing to pay the resources for it. So, I mean, theoretically, you have 10 resources free, and you seal 10 curse tokens away and never have to worry about them again. Now, that seems pretty unlikely to me, especially in Mystics, who don't have tons of resources unless they happen to be playing David Renfield. And it does seem like a pretty expensive solution to a relatively minor problem. If you've only got 2 or 3 curse tokens in the bag, the odds of drawing them aren't that great to begin with, and their impact isn't going to be that huge. So picking up an 8 XP card to just seal those tokens away is really not worth it. You really want to be using the abilities on this, which I think are pretty good, but again, I think you've got to do some work to get this card into play, and I'm honestly not sure whether I would play this or not. It's you got to make some choices, right? It's like, what am I giving up to include this card, and does this card do enough on its own to make it worth its while? And while I like the abilities, I like that ability to push an enemy without making a skill test, or damage an enemy without making a skill test, I'm just not sure if that impact is as great as some of the other cards that you could purchase with 8 XP. So this is an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure whether I would purchase it or not, but I would, if I came to a table and I saw somebody playing it, I would certainly understand why. I think the abilities are good. The other cards that were spoiled are, of course, Favor of the Moon and Favor of the Sun. They are quite similar to each other. They are both fast, unique assets. Favor of the Moon that costs 1 experience point. Favor of the Moon costs 1 resource, while Favor of the Sun costs 2. Favor of the Moon is it's fast. Seal up to 3 curse tokens. If there are no tokens sealed on Favor of the Moon, discard it. As a response, when you would reveal a Chaos token from the Chaos bag, exhaust Favor of the Moon. Resolve a token sealed here instead, as if it were just revealed from the Chaos bag, then gain 1 resource. Favor of the Sun does the same thing except for blessed tokens, and it does not include the resource part. So you just get to seal 3 blessed tokens, and then if you would reveal a token, you can use one of the blessed tokens on Favor of the Sun. Now, these cards are pretty good. If you need to draw a curse token or a blessed token to trigger another effect, then the Favor of the Moon or Favor of the Sun guarantees that you will draw at least 1 bless or curse token. Of course, if you are revealing them in a typical skill test, you will have to draw again from the Chaos bag, so you might end up with more than 1. But these are the types of cards that work very well with the card like Manipulate Destiny that was released earlier in the cycle. Manipulate Destiny, you have to reveal a token from the Chaos bag, whether it's Curse, Auto Fail, Bless, or Elder Sign. So this basically gives you, if you've got Favor of the Moon down, you've got a Curse token, which would let you deal 2 damage to an enemy location. If you've got Favor of the Sun down, then this would let you heal 2 damage from an investigator or ally asset at your location. So you automatically get that token. You don't have to draw. So that makes a card like Manipulate Destiny very, very good indeed. Of course, the ability to draw a Bless or Curse token on demand also works extremely well with the cycle of mystic assets that we've seen in the Innsmouth Conspiracy, Armageddon, Eye of Chaos, and Shroud of Shadows, all of which were released in Into Deep. And we've seen at least one of their upgrades, and I'm sure there'll be upgrades for all of these cards. All of these cards work well if you draw a curse token. So, of course, if you've got Favor of the Moon on the table, you know you're going to draw a curse token. And so you get a little bit extra. With Armageddon, you get to deal an extra damage or gain a charge. Eye of Chaos, you get to, I believe it's grab another clue, discover an additional clue, and Shroud of Shadows gives you a charge, or I think you get to move away. I can't remember quite what it does, but you get an advantage if you draw a curse token if you're playing any of these cards. Favor of the Moon guarantees that you can draw at least one curse token. So I think that if you're playing that style of deck, obviously Favor of the Moon is an auto include in that style of deck. Now, alternatively, you could simply purchase Favor of the Moon if you're not playing those styles of decks, since it is a neutral card. It's open to any class. You could purchase Favor of the Moon and simply seal curse tokens on it and never trigger it. So you pay your 1 resource, you seal up to 3 curse tokens, and forget about them for the rest of the game. That is one option if you want to mitigate those tokens. You can also use Favor of the Moon for to generate some resources. For a card and a resource, you have the potential to gain up to 3 resources, which is okay too. So lots of I think Favor of the Moon is probably I think I like Favor of the Moon a little bit more than Favor of the Sun, simply because the Bless tokens don't really impact the game as much as the Curse tokens do. Bless tokens are nice to get, but they don't really, I mean, if you're playing on standard difficulty and you're trying to be 2 up before the pull, Bless tokens really don't do all that much. Whereas Curse tokens, you may not draw them that much, but they can really hurt your prospects of passing a skill test. So having access to a card like Favor of the Moon that you could either just seal those tokens away or maybe generate a few resources, or if you're playing cards like Manipulate Destiny or the trio of mystic assets, Favor of the Moon works quite nicely with those. And of course, Favor of the Sun isn't too bad either, because it does mitigate one of the problems with the Bless mechanic, is that sometimes you end up wasting those Bless tokens on tests that you didn't need them. Say if you're drawing multiple Bless tokens on a single pull, you didn't need to be +6, you just needed maybe +2. Favor of the Sun lets you seal those tokens away and use them on tests that you really need them for. So say you have to test one of the skills that you're weak in. I'm just thinking, say, like Agnes Baker, and you have to make an agility skill test or something like that at bad odds, and you had a Favor of the Sun in play. You know you're going to draw a Bless token, so you're at least +2, and then you can go from there. So I think it is quite helpful, as long as you, of course, have the tokens in the bag to begin with. So I like both Favor of the Sun and Favor of the Moon. I think Favor of the Moon is slightly stronger, but that's just because I think the Curse tokens tend to have a bigger impact than the Bless tokens do. But I certainly wouldn't mind having 3 Bless tokens just sitting on the table, knowing that I can draw them whenever I need for a skill test. That's going to do it for the player cards in the Lair of Dagon. There was at least one other. It was a Guardian card that was spoiled in the pre-order page, but I can't make out the game text on it. It is there's a lot of game text on the card, but I couldn't make it out. So, but of course we know there are going to be Guardian cards in the pack as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to decipher what it does. But a good pack, I think, here. Lots of cards spoiled, so we know. I think there were 8 or 9 cards spoiled in total, so we know, I think, most of the cards in the pack at this point. I like a lot of the cards in it. I think the weakest cards are going to be the talents. I think those are going to be really hit or miss with players. Some players love them, some players don't. And upgrading to a level 4 talent, I don't think I've ever purchased a level 4 talent before. Because we've only had access to physical training and arcane studies. I've upgraded to level 2 hyper awareness a couple times, but I'm not too sure whether I would upgrade to the level 4 version. Maybe. It's pretty good. If you've got the money to burn, then definitely you want the level 4 versions if you can get them. I just wonder how many. There's not that many investigators who are going to be all that interested in them, especially Dig Deep, which sees less play than all of the other talents, I think, by a sizable margin. But all the other cards in this pack are looking pretty good. I like Nephthys. I like the favors. Favor of the Moon and Favor of the Sun are both excellent if you're playing with the Bless or Curse mechanic. Having a way to draw Bless or Curse tokens on demand is fantastic. Stygian Eye is a very interesting, very powerful card, but of course you've got to weigh, like, is it worth, how many resources is +3 to all of your skills worth, and are you necessarily going to have the resources around to pay for it if you need it. And Flute of the Outer Gods, it's a tough one for me to judge, just because I like the abilities, but there's a lot of things you've got to do to sort of get it to work. And 8 XP is a ton. Now, of the classes to pay for an 8 XP card, I think Mystics are in a slightly better position because they have cards like Arcane Research that can lower the cost of other Mystic assets. So you can save a little bit of XP on those, so then you can play, you could pick up a card like Flute of the Outer Gods. But, is the ability worth it? I'd be willing to move an enemy as an action without taking a skill test or damage an enemy. But I think it might work slightly better in multiplayer, where you could say push an enemy that's with you to a Guardian who could then kill it, especially if it had the Hunter keyword. So perhaps not a solo card, maybe better in multiplayer. But looking forward to the Lair of Dagon pack as always. Again, we're almost at the end of the cycle. Only one more Mythos pack preview before we'll be seeing a preview for the next cycle. So I hope that you will stay tuned for that. And more great Arkham Horror LCG content on the way.